Avatar: The Last Airbender was so frickin' cool. It's one of my all-time favorite shows, and it holds a special place in not only my childhood, but the childhood of countless fans. Millions have bought games, soundtracks, plushies, and novels, all in support of this cultural milestone. It's set apart from shows of its time and ones that have followed for a number of different reasons. It has an interesting art style, blending both Eastern and Western animation, amazing locations, well-choreographed fight scenes with crazy powers, lovable and deep characters, and a simplistic story with a lot of heart. With 3 seasons spanning 61 episodes, the show was a major success and has remained an instant classic. Then they made a second one. The Legend of Korra was a colossal disappointment in every way. The art direction was terrible, the writing was atrocious, the humor fell flat, the characters were lifeless and irritating, the setting made no sense within the established universe, and the fight scenes were sloppy and lazy. And the villains, they were downright wasted. And then there's Korra. Korra starts off the series as an arrogant with not a single redeemable quality. She's openly disrespectful, takes advantage of the people that just want to help her, mistreats and distrusts literally everyone that isn't her, and generally walks around with a major attitude in need of a John Cena smackdown. She manages to bumble her way through most of the show, having everyone do her job for her, even going so far as to bail her out in plenty of situations. She has no coherent character arc, rarely does anything that would classify her as the hero of the story, and ends the show as a shy, uncertain, closeted lesbian. But while there's plenty to talk about in regards to the characters, plot, and art, and don't worry, I'll get around to them, for this series of videos I wanted to focus on one thing specifically: the villains. Alright, let's dive right into this and start with Korra's first villain. This is going to be a short list, but let's take a look at what the show got right. Amon starts off as a great villain, which... Look, I don't mean to get sidetracked immediately, but this needs to be said. None of Korra's problems occur with the conception, at least where the villains are concerned. All of the problems happen at the execution phase, and generally for the same reason. Shows these days all follow a pattern that I've dubbed the Villain of the Week format, in which each season of said show will only have one major antagonist that the heroes defeat by the last episode, usually in a way that sets up the villain for the next season. Rinse and repeat. The concept isn't new, it's not bad, you can find it in most cop dramas. Of course there it's on an episode-by-episode basis instead of a season-by-season one. And in those shows, the formula isn't terrible. In fact, it works quite well. But when it's applied to shows like those on the CW, for instance, things tend to fall apart pretty quickly. Take Supernatural, for example. For its first 5 seasons, Supernatural had one major villain, Lucifer. Even baddies like Meg, Lilith, and Azazel all turned out to be minor players in some way, all working toward the same end: bring Lucifer to Earth, start the apocalypse, win and rule. The show felt like it was building towards something, like there was time and effort put into the overarching storyline. It felt like each season was carefully crafted in order to lead to this final culmination of years' worth of hard work. Nowadays, it feels like the writers decide what the hell is happening next season in the final minutes of the last episode of the season previous. I mean, we had no idea there was even a British Men of Letters until we got a 10-minute clip of them in the last episode of season 10. Anyways, the reason I want to mention this is because unlike The Last Airbender, who had one main antagonist that was executed perfectly, The Legend of Korra had a new villain every season. So now, back to Amon. Like I said earlier, Amon starts off as a great villain. He's a simple guy with simple goals. Disfigured by a firebender at an early age, Amon was on a personal vendetta that he adapted to a larger scale once he saw the oppression of non-benders by the bending population in Republic City. He's mysterious and charismatic, and presents a unique challenge for the people in charge and even Korra herself. You see, Korra's used to just punching problems until they go away. And that's not even me ripping on Korra. That's just the character that the show presents. But force alone won't work on Amon, because at the core of the situation, Amon isn't the one fighting. Oh sure, he's got skills, but he isn't out on the street blowing things up, or tearing down monuments, or taking out high-ranking officials. He has people do that for him. Amon is just the face behind an idea, or the mask behind it, I guess. I don't know. And with some clever dialogue and an amazing voice actor at the helm, Amon is the kind of threat you root for. Hell, one of the best scenes in the entire show is when he actually captures Korra. But instead of taking away her bending, or even fighting her one-on-one, he just lets her go. She's literally so much of a non-threat to him that he walks away. What a badass! Amon works so well as a character concept because it's one we're familiar with, both on and off the screen. At the end of the day, Amon is Korra's Joker. He's the cunning leader of a band of domestic terrorists that strives for an ideal counter to that of the ruling class. He sees those in charge as a symptom of a larger problem, rather than the cure, and hides his true goal from his flunkies, all the while giving them a false face to rally behind, and one his enemies fear to provoke. His beef with Korra is even similar to the Joker's with Batman. Amon doesn't want to kill Korra. He doesn't need to. His goal is to make her feel helpless, to make her and the rest of the council realize they are the cancer of the city. Amon is fighting an ideological battle, and that's not something you can just punch your way out. Bolstering Amon's coolness factor is his skill set. Amon is presented as an adept fighter, even though he's a non-bender. Or, well, he's sort of a non-bender. Okay, one of the first on-screen shots we get of Amon is at a demonstration. It's here we learn why he's going to be such a threat to Korra. Energy bending. Or is it will bending? Is it will? Is energy bending? Nah, whatever. Amon is able to take away a person's bending abilities, much like Aang was able to do with Ozai at the end of The Last Airbender. I was totally hooked the moment I saw this, and for a couple of different reasons. Firstly, energy bending is still special. In a world where every firebender apparently can lightning bend now, and the entire police force are metal benders, those talents aren't as special or unique anymore. They're tired and worn out. But energy bending, that's something only the Avatar has been able to do, and only once. And he had to learn it from mystical Turtle Island. Secondly, bending is all Korra has. Not many things are great about Korra's character, but they do manage to make clear one thing in particular. Korra loves being the Avatar. She loves being as skilled and capable as she is. For a person who relies on her power as a form of identity, Amon's ability to take away that power presents an existential threat. All of this, Amon's character, his backstory, his motivations, his design, his goals, his skills, could have come together to make one of the best on-screen villains in the Avatar franchise. Hell, even one of the best on-screen villains in all of children's programming. But guess what? He wasn't. Now let's take a look at how the writers took a massive elephant on what could have been their greatest creation. So it turns out Amon doesn't know how to energy bend. Amon is in fact a waterbender, and what he is doing is a form of blood bending that is able to permanently block chi paths. Or sort of permanently, whatever, it's dumb. Amon isn't even his real name. His actual name is Noatak. He's the brother of council member Tarlok and the son of a powerful bloodbender named Yakone. Yakone was a career criminal that used his bloodbending to get away with his crimes, until he came face to face with Avatar Aang and had his powers taken from him. Shocker. Using his wealth, he escaped prison, got a face change, and moved north toward the pole, where he eventually settled down, married, and had 2 kids. Aww. Once the boys began to show prowess in bloodbending, he began to teach them all he knew in the hopes that they would get revenge on the Avatar for him. Oh boy. Long story short, the boys bail, Yukon dies, and Tarlok and Noatuk each head to Republic City with the aim of making it better, each of them ending up on opposite sides when it came to how they were going to accomplish that goal. I don't have the time, patience, or even the vocabulary to explain in great detail why this backstory completely rips to shreds the coolness of Amon's character. Honestly, it's something you have to see it for yourself. Instead, I will summarize my grievances in a comparison. Amon started off the series as Korra's Joker, but by the end was little more than her Anakin Skywalker. Instead of a charismatic, intimidating foe that couldn't be fought in the traditional sense, we, the audience, were given a selfish man-child with daddy issues, and no greater goal other than, I'm going to break my brother's stuff now. Even Amon's motivations are aptly destroyed throughout the season. His whole reasoning for starting this crusade against Republic City and what it stands for is based on the idea that there is a systematic oppression of non-benders by the bending population. Just one problem with that. You never actually see any of that oppression. In fact, the reverse appears to be true. Aside from the council being made of benders, the richest and wealthiest in Republic City seem to be the non-benders. The only two benders the audience spends time with, the only ones we even give two shits about, are Mako and Bolin, who are dirt poor and taken advantage of routinely by the non-benders who run the pro-bending tournaments. In fact, the one time there appears to be oppression of any kind is in this scene where a mandatory curfew is being enforced. But even then, the citizens are at fault. And when action is taken, it's Korra, Mako, and Bolin who are arrested, not the non-benders. Despite the amazing setup for Amon and what he could be as a villain, the writers of the show, Bryan Konietzko and Michael DiMartino, butt fumbled hard in his execution. So much potential wasted. What's even sadder is this is just the first villain, and he's the best they got. In the next video, we'll be looking at... No. Oh God, no. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. Stay tuned to the channel for more in this series.